The Imbrie is a classic wet fly that is in Mary Orvis Marbury's book, Favorite Flies and Their Histories. I'm tying it on a number 6 sproat hook that I've cut the eye off of to make it blind. I'm tying it from the illustration in Mary Orvis Marbury's book, Favorite Flies and Their Histories. It was published in 1892. I am putting a piece of fake gut leader on it. I make my own fake gut leader using silk thread that I've waxed and twisted against itself. I'm just lashing it on, laying down a layer of waxed thread, and then lashing that leader onto the hook shank. Actually creates a very good attachment. This is a very fishable fly. To cut off the tag ends there, I had a knot originally in the first doubling. I didn't knot it again afterwards, but that does give me a very strong attachment to the hook shank. I am using a claret silk. I use claret because that's the color of the head in the illustration, and I have discovered that the Orvis flies were tied with either black or red silk, but they used a dark lacquer, and not having the dark lacquer, I use the claret. That gives me that same look that I would have had I lacquered red thread. I'm tying in a piece of old metal gold tinsel to create the tag. Let's take a couple wraps down the bend of the hook and back up. Bring my thread back, catch that in. I want to try to make sure that I don't have too lumpy of a body, as it will be floss covered. Because that's a metal tinsel, I can just bend it back and forth to break it off. I also make my own wax, and it's a little bit soft. I don't put it on my finger because the body temperature makes it too sticky. I'm using some golden crescent crest barbs for the tail. The illustration has just 3 of those barbs. I've got a few more than 3 maybe. We'll see here when I get them tied in. I'll tie them in so that they are bending up. The crescent has a natural bend to it, so if I can use that bend to my advantage, hold it a little bit forward to get it to be on top. And I've got one that laid down backwards or sideways. That's all right. I'm not going to worry about it. Looks like I've got 4. Go ahead and cut out the butt end. Then there's a black chenille butt on it, so I'm going to peel back the thread in the bottom of the chenille, tie that thread in, make sure I'm coming all the way back to where my tail and tag are, And then I'll just put probably just one wrap. My thread back, wrap up over that chenille butt. I originally thought that the butt was peacock herl, but J. Edson Leonard says black chenille, and I do think that the actual fly probably has black chenille. There's a new biography of Mary Orvis Marbury out that has photographs, and I think the photographs are actual size. The book is called a coffee table book. It's printed in 11 by 11 inches, and I'm wondering if that choice wasn't made in order to show the actual size of the flies. So they photographed the actual plates that have the flies that were tied for the book. I'm going to come back and try to get that chenille to lay down. Now the reason that I tied that chenille all the way up the shank was again to keep that body even and add a little bit of bulk. I'm going to use gold oval tinsel for the rib. I'll tie it in underneath. And I'm using oval tinsel because it has a better gold color. I don't really like the gold color of the wire that I have. It's called gold, but it's really more coppery. And I have some 400 denier yellow floss. 2 strands of that will create a better coverage. Just tie that in, bring my thread up to where I will tie in the wings and hackle, and then I'll wrap. Try not to grab my rib material at the same time. And the body in the illustration is fairly thick. So by having that chenille and everything else wrapped in on the hook shank, I get that nice thick body. Come up to where I will tie in the hackle and wing, make sure that there's enough room for a head. I got that tied in on the bottom. I want that on the top. It's easier to cut out. Okay. I'm going to put a little more wax. I have to remember to keep waxing the thread. Pull back on the body material and wrap underneath of it, even over it a little bit. That will secure it in. Clip out the extra, and then I will wrap the rib in spirals. Catch it off. So I do 3 wraps over the top to catch it in, 3 tight wraps underneath to secure it, and then I can clip out the waist. For the hackle, I'm just using the brown rooster. I think the fibers, barbs are about the right length. I want them to reach from where I have it tied in back to the point of the hook. I'm going to clip it off about here in the middle. Try to get rid of some of these lighter colored barbs at the bottom. Go ahead and give it a crew cut, which is cutting the barbs right close to the rachis. That gives it a catch, something for the thread to catch onto as I tie it in. And then I will give that a few wraps. They do kind of stand up more than I want them to initially. But by wrapping back on them, I can get them to lay down. So I wet my fingers and pull back on all of the barbs and the hackle that's still there, the feather tip that's still there. And by wrapping back over them, I get them to lay back in a wet fly fashion. I am using rooster hackle, but it's long, flexible barbs. For the wings, I have 2 slips of mallard. This is actually the gray side of a secondary flight feather. The feathers are these white-tipped feathers. There's blue iridescence on the one side and then nice gray on the other, so I've taken the gray side of those. So 2 slips back to back. I have cut them to be about the width of the gape. I will lay those in on top of the hackle with the tips coming back about to where the bend of the hook is. Pinch those tightly between my fingers and then do a pinch wrap, grab the thread and then come down under the hook and then pull up and cinch it and then wrap back onto it a few times to catch it into place. And I'm pretty happy with that. I'll go ahead and wrap it back. Clip out to the butt ends. Being careful not to cut the leader or the thread. And as if this fly doesn't already have enough bling, it also has jungle cock shoulders. So I've got 2 of those. It looks like I want to cut them right about where the bottom white ends. Just peel back the barbs, hold that against the side of the hook, the head, and wrap up over it. And then I think that's a little bit long. Let me undo that. Okay, flip, do the same thing with the other one. So Charles Imbrie, after whom this fly is named, was a part of the New York tackle and fishing supply store called Abbey and Imbrie. He introduced the fly, and it was named after him. Wax my thread again, and I will throw just a couple of half hitches. I'll do those by hand to get it around my leader. Bring that thread up onto the shank of the hook and pull down on it to just catch it in right there. The heads on the Orvis flies are fairly square, and I guess that's part of tying into this blind hook. Let's do one more. Alright, I'll clip off that thread. I'm just pushing my scissors against the thread. In a contemporary twist, I'm going to put a drop of diluted goop. That will make sure that that head does not come untied, and I have a fancy, though completely fishable fly.